Introduction: The truth about persuasion. Let's clear something up right away. Persuasion is not manipulation. It's not trickery, deception, or forcing people to do something against their will. Persuasion, true persuasion, is communication with intention. It's about understanding people, connecting with them, and guiding conversations toward outcomes that benefit both sides. And here's the thing: whether you realize it or not, you're already persuading people every single day. You do it when you ask for a favor, when you pitch an idea, when you tell a story, give feedback, or even just try to get someone to see things your way. Persuasion isn't something reserved for salespeople, lawyers, or leaders. It's a tool that everyone uses. The difference is, most people use it poorly, or worse, completely unconsciously. That's where this audiobook comes in. I'm going to show you how to master persuasion in a way that feels natural, confident, and authentic. No fake scripts, no cheesy tactics, just clear, science-backed strategies that actually work in conversations, negotiations, relationships, and everyday life. You'll learn how to grab attention, earn trust, speak with confidence, and influence outcomes, all without being pushy or fake. And most importantly, you'll learn how to do it ethically, because the best persuaders don't manipulate, they understand. Over the next 5 chapters, we'll break down practical, proven techniques you can use right away. From making powerful first impressions, to using emotion over logic, to asking for what you want, and actually getting it. This isn't just about learning to talk better. It's about learning to connect, lead, and get results, no matter who you're talking to. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. The power of first impressions. Before you ever say a word, people are already making decisions about you. In fact, research shows that people form an impression of you within the first 7 seconds of meeting you. And once that impression is made, it's incredibly hard to change. That's why mastering the first moment, the handshake, the posture, the tone, the presence, is critical to persuasive communication. When most people think of persuasion, they imagine convincing someone through clever words or logical arguments. But the truth is, the way you show up matters more than what you say. First impressions set the tone. They determine whether someone sees you as confident, trustworthy, competent, or forgettable. Let's break it down. When someone meets you for the first time, their brain instantly scans for cues. Are you safe or threatening? Are you confident or unsure? Are you someone worth listening to, or someone they'll ignore? This is all happening before you even speak. It's called the primacy effect, the psychological principle that people remember and anchor to the first information they receive. That means if your first impression feels strong, confident, and grounded, you've already opened the door for influence. So how do you create that kind of impression? It starts with body language. Stand tall, shoulders back, head up. No slouching, no fidgeting, no hiding. Confidence begins with posture. Next, eye contact. Don't stare someone down, but don't avoid their gaze either. Look at people like you belong in the conversation, because you do. Then comes your tone of voice. Speak clearly and at a steady pace. A rushed, nervous tone screams insecurity. A calm, grounded voice signals control, certainty, and presence. You don't need to be loud, just intentional. And finally, your energy. People can feel when someone is centered and certain versus scattered and self-conscious. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not. Just be present. Own the space you're in. The more comfortable you are in your own skin, the more persuasive you become. Let's look at a quick example. Imagine 2 people walk into a room. The first walks in, looking down at their phone, slouched over, avoids eye contact, and mumbles, "Hey." The second walks in upright, offers a relaxed smile, makes direct eye contact, and says, "Hey, good to see you." Which one do you want to hear more from? Which one would you take more seriously? That's the power of first impressions. And here's the good news. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Small shifts in posture, tone, and presence can completely change the way people perceive you and respond to you. Because once someone sees you as confident, grounded and trustworthy, they're more open, more receptive, more willing to follow your lead. And persuasion always begins with receptiveness. So if you want to get what you want from anyone, don't start with what to say. Start with how you show up. Because the first impression isn't just the first thing they see, it's the first moment they decide if they'll listen. Chapter 2. Speak their language, not yours. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to persuade someone is focusing too much on what they want to say and not enough on what the other person actually needs to hear. We're naturally wired to see the world through our own lens, our goals, our emotions, our logic. So when we communicate, we tend to project that onto others. We talk about why we think something is important, why we believe it's a good idea, why we want someone to agree with us. But persuasion doesn't happen when people hear your language. It happens when they feel like you're speaking theirs. Think about it like this. Everyone walks around with their own internal language, their values, beliefs, fears, and desires. If you speak in a way that doesn't connect with that internal world, they tune you out. But if you can match their language, their tone, their motivations, the door opens wide. This isn't manipulation. It's empathy. It's emotional intelligence. And it's one of the fastest ways to build trust and influence. So how do you actually do it? Start by listening before you speak. Pay attention to the words they use. Do they focus on numbers and results? Then they're logic-driven. Do they talk more about feelings and people? Then they're emotionally driven. Do they use words like, I need to see it, or I need to feel it? That tells you how they process the world, visually, emotionally, or logically. Mirror that. If someone is calm and reserved, don't come in too intense. Match their energy. If someone is fast-paced and animated, don't drag your tone down. Meet them where they are. This creates an instant sense of rapport, like you're on the same wavelength. This technique is known in psychology as mirroring and matching, and when used with subtlety and intention, it makes people feel comfortable and understood. And people are much more likely to be influenced when they feel safe. Another key is to frame your message in terms of what matters to them. Instead of saying, this is important to me, say, here's how this benefits you. Instead of saying, I need this done, say, here's why this will help your goals. Use the word you more than I, because when people hear their name, their goals, and their perspective reflected in your message, they listen. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about adapting how you communicate so your message actually lands. Here's a simple example. Let's say you're trying to get your friend to go to the gym with you. If you say, I really want to work out more, they might shrug it off. But if you say, you said you've been wanting more energy, let's hit the gym and get after it. Now you've linked it to their goal. You've shifted the frame, and that's the secret. Because at the end of the day, persuasion is not about convincing someone of your truth. It's about guiding them to see how that truth benefits them. So speak their language, adapt, align, reflect what matters to them. Because the more they feel seen and understood, the more they'll follow your lead. Chapter 3. Use emotion, not just logic. You might think the best way to persuade someone is by giving them the facts. Show them the data, explain the logic, make it make sense. But here's the truth. People don't make decisions based on logic. They make decisions based on emotion and then use logic to justify them afterward. That's not just a motivational quote, it's neuroscience. The emotional part of the brain, the limbic system, is what kicks in first when we're faced with a decision. It asks, how do I feel about this? Not what's the spreadsheet say? If the emotional response is strong enough, the logical mind jumps in afterward to validate the choice. This is why the most persuasive people don't just explain things. They make you feel something. So if you want to influence people effectively, don't lead with logic. Lead with emotion. Here's how. Start by understanding what emotional button your message needs to press. Does this person want to feel secure, respected, in control, appreciated, excited? Figure out what they want to feel and build your message around that. For example, let's say you're trying to convince someone to invest in your idea. You could say, this has a high ROI, backed by strong numbers and a clear growth path. That's logical, sounds smart, but it doesn't hit them emotionally. Now try this. This is a chance to lead, to be first, to take control of something that's about to take off. That sparks emotion, that taps into desire, and that's what moves people. Another powerful tool? Stories. Telling a short, relevant story is one of the fastest ways to activate emotion. People see themselves in stories. They connect. They visualize. And when someone visualizes themselves in a story, they're halfway to saying yes. Don't just describe features or benefits. Paint a picture. Help them see it, feel it, live it before they ever say yes. You can also use questions to trigger emotion. Instead of stating, "This will help you get better results," ask, "How would it feel to finally stop struggling with this?" Or, "What would it mean for you to finally feel in control of this part of your life?" Questions like these make them reflect. They spark internal emotion and emotional investment. And when people are emotionally invested, they move. Another technique, use future pacing. That means helping someone imagine how their life will be after they've made the decision. For example, picture this. You wake up next month and this problem is gone. You're focused, in control. You've got results you can see. That's where this takes you. That's powerful. It moves the conversation from abstract to personal, from head to heart. Now, does this mean logic doesn't matter at all? Of course not. Logic matters, but it comes after emotion. Logic is what helps people feel smart about the decision they already want to make. So the formula is this. Spark emotion. Tell a story or paint a vision. Reinforce it with logic, memory, not the other way around. Emotion gets the yes. Logic helps them feel good about it. Because when people feel it, they move. Chapter 4. Create micro yeses. Here's something most people miss about persuasion. The yes doesn't happen all at once. It's not one magical moment. It's not one perfect pitch. Persuasion is a process, a series of small wins that lead to a big decision. And that's where the idea of micro yeses comes in. Micro yeses are tiny agreements you build along the way. They're not the final yes to your offer or idea. They're the little, "Yeah, that makes sense." The "Sure, I see your point." The "Okay, go on." Every micro yes is a step closer to the real one. Here's why it works. The more someone agrees with you, even in small ways, the more likely they are to keep agreeing. It builds momentum. It creates a rhythm, and it makes saying yes feel natural instead of forced. This is based on a well-studied psychological principle called the foot in the door technique. The idea is simple. If you can get someone to agree to something small, they're more likely to agree to something bigger later because they already see themselves as the kind of person who says yes to you. So how do you use this in real conversations? Let's break it down. Start by getting agreement on something obvious and safe. A shared belief, a problem, or a goal. For example, would you agree that staying consistent is one of the hardest parts of building good habits? That's a micro yes. It's easy to agree with. No pressure, no resistance. Then keep stacking them. Have you ever felt like you know what to do, but you just don't do it? Another yes. Would it help if there was a way to make it easier to stay on track, even when motivation drops? Another one. Now you've built a rhythm. The listener is nodding. They're engaged. They feel like you get them. And when you finally present your solution, idea, or offer, it feels like the next step, not a leap. You can also use micro yeses by asking questions with answers that naturally lead toward your point. Let's say you're recommending a strategy. Ask, "Do you want something that works long-term, not just quick wins?" That's emotional alignment and logic in one. But here's the key. Don't overdo it. If you fire off 10 micro yes questions in a row, it starts to feel scripted or manipulative. This isn't about interrogation. It's about rhythm. It should feel like a conversation, not a setup. You can also create micro yeses by building a shared experience. For example, this might sound familiar. You sit down to focus, and 5 minutes later you're on your phone, wondering where the time went. If they've experienced that, they're already nodding. That's a micro yes without even asking a question. Another way, Use statements they internally agree with. Most people want to be consistent, but they get stuck in the same loop. That's not a question, but it triggers a mental yes. The more of these small agreements you stack, the more natural it becomes for someone to say yes when it actually matters. Because by then, they're already on your side. Remember, persuasion is not about pressure, it's about alignment. And alignment is built through agreement. So start small, stack wins, make them say yes to the little things, and the big yes won't feel so big anymore. Chapter 5. Close with confidence. You've made the connection. You've matched their mindset. You've sparked emotion and built small agreements. Now comes the part most people fear. The close. Asking for what you want. This is where a lot of people hesitate. They get awkward, nervous, or overly careful, and in that hesitation, they lose momentum. The person they're talking to picks up on the shift. The energy drops. The moment passes. So here's the rule. Ask like you expect the answer to be yes. Confidence in persuasion doesn't mean arrogance. It means clarity. It means communicating with certainty and purpose, not hoping, not begging, not talking in circles. Because if you don't believe in what you're saying, why should they? Let's start with how you ask. Avoid weak, uncertain language like, would you maybe be interested in? I don't know if this is something you'd consider, but I was just wondering if. These phrases soften your message, but they also signal insecurity. Instead, speak directly and respectfully. Here's what I recommend. Let's move forward with this. This is what I'd love for you to do next. Be specific. Be clear. Let them know exactly what you want and exactly what the next step looks like. People are more likely to say yes when you remove uncertainty from the ask. Here's another key. Frame the close as a win for them. It's not about pushing what you want. It's about showing them how what you're asking for benefits them. Example, instead of saying, "Can you approve this idea?" Try, "Approving this gets us one step closer to solving that problem you mentioned. Let's lock it in." You're not just asking, you're leading. Now let's talk about resistance. Because sometimes, even when you do everything right, people hesitate. And that's okay. Persuasive people don't panic when they hear no. They stay calm. They stay curious. Instead of backing down, they ask questions. What's holding you back right now? What would need to happen for this to feel like a yes? What concerns do you have that I can help clear up? These aren't defensive questions. They're leadership questions. They show you're confident enough to keep the conversation going, not scared of rejection. One of the most powerful things you can do in persuasion is stay steady in the face of resistance. Because most people crumble. Most people retreat the second they feel pushback. But when you hold your ground, keep your energy calm, and stay focused on the outcome, you create space for the other person to move toward you. And here's something else to remember. Sometimes the person you're persuading just needs a moment, a little silence, a second to think. Don't rush to fill that silence. Let it breathe, let your ask land, and trust the strength of your delivery. That's confidence, and confidence is contagious. When you speak clearly, stand tall, and ask with conviction, people feel it. They don't just hear your words, they feel your belief, and more often than not, they'll follow your lead. So close with confidence, not with pressure, not with hope, but with certainty. Because persuasion doesn't end when you make your point. It ends when you make your move. Closing. Step into persuasion. Mastery, persuasion isn't some secret reserved for salespeople, CEOs, or charismatic public speakers. It's a skill, a learnable, repeatable, powerful skill that anyone can master. And now you've got the tools. You've learned how to shape first impressions that spark trust and attention. You know how to speak someone else's language, not just push your own agenda. You've seen the power of emotion and how it drives action more than logic ever could. You understand how to build momentum through micro yeses and how to close with clarity and confidence. But knowledge alone isn't enough. Persuasion mastery comes from action, from practice, from using these techniques in your daily life, in conversations, negotiations, relationships, in opportunities that matter. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. You just have to decide, I'm going to start using what I know. Because once you do, you'll notice something change, not just in how others respond to you, but in how you see yourself. You'll stop second-guessing your message. You'll stop holding back your ideas. You'll walk into rooms with presence. You'll speak with intention. You'll lead with confidence. And you'll start getting what you want, not by force, not by manipulation, but by understanding people better than they understand themselves. That's real persuasion. That's real power. Now go use it.